She woke up with the sound of birds chirping outside her small window. The sunlight peeked through the thin curtains, casting soft patterns on the wooden floor of her modest room. She stretched slowly, feeling the gentle warmth of the morning, and took a deep breath. Today was special. She was going to visit a friend in another city, something she hadn't done in years. It was a simple pleasure, something that filled her heart with excitement and a bit of nervousness. She got out of bed and walked barefoot to the kitchen. The aroma of fresh bread greeted her from the small oven she kept for her daily baking. She liked to start her mornings with a cup of tea, and today was no different. She poured hot water into her favorite mug, the one with tiny flowers painted on it, and let the tea leaves float freely. Sitting by the window, she watched the world wake up outside. A few neighbors were heading to work. Children ran to catch the school bus, and the occasional dog barked in the distance. She smiled to herself. Life was ordinary, but it was comforting in its own quiet way. After finishing her tea, she moved to the small wooden table in the corner and began to pack her bag. She didn't need much. A few clothes, a notebook, her favorite scarf, and the small camera she loved carrying around to capture moments. She believed in keeping things simple. Extravagance had never been her way. Even when she thought about travel, she never imagined needing luxury. A plane ticket was enough, and she was happy. As she walked to the bathroom to brush her hair, she noticed the little imperfections in her tiny apartment. The chipped paint on the wall, the uneven tiles on the floor. Yet it felt like home. She had learned long ago that happiness didn't come from fancy things or expensive furniture. It came from the little joys, the moments she could treasure quietly. Today she felt a little flutter of adventure. She didn't know what awaited her, but that was the beauty of it. The bus ride to the airport was filled with small observations that made her smile. She watched a young boy struggle to keep his balloon from floating away. A man balanced a stack of boxes while hurrying through the crowd, and an elderly couple held hands as they walked slowly. Each sight reminded her of the stories everyone carried with them, stories of ordinary lives that somehow felt extraordinary when noticed. She pulled her scarf closer around her neck as the wind gusted through the streets, feeling alive and present in every passing moment. At the airport, she felt a rush of unfamiliar energy. The hum of people, the rolling of suitcases, the announcements echoing over the speakers. It all felt overwhelming at first. She kept her bag close and navigated through the crowd with care. She stopped for a moment to watch planes taxiing on the runway, their massive bodies gleaming in the morning sun. There was something magical about seeing them, knowing they would soon carry people to places they had only dreamed about. She smiled again, thinking about the city she was about to visit and the laughter of her friend waiting for her at the other end. Checking in was straightforward. She handed over her ID and ticket with a polite smile, the clerk returning the gesture warmly. She was assigned a seat in the economy section, the part of the plane she was most comfortable with. She didn't mind. The luxury of first class had never tempted her. She had always felt that being modest didn't make the experience any less special. To her, a window seat and a little space to stretch was plenty. While waiting at the gate, she found a quiet corner near a large glass wall overlooking the runway. She sat down, resting her bag on her lap, and watched the planes take off one by one. Each takeoff seemed to carry a story, a destination, a life in motion. She took out her small notebook and began to jot down thoughts that had been floating in her mind. Sometimes writing helped her make sense of things, a habit she cherished for years. She wrote about the simple pleasures of her life, the little joys that often went unnoticed by others, and the quiet hope she carried for the future. Time moved quickly. Announcements called passengers for boarding, and she stood up, adjusting her scarf and smoothing out her clothes. She walked calmly to the gate, showing her ticket to the staff, and stepped onto the shuttle that would take her to the plane. The excitement she felt earlier turned into a gentle anticipation, a quiet eagerness for the journey ahead. As she entered the plane, she was greeted by the soft hum of the cabin, the smell of freshly cleaned seats, and the gentle murmur of fellow travelers finding their places. She followed the signs to her seat, a small smile on her face as she settled in. The window seat offered her a view of the runway, and she pressed her hand lightly against the cool glass, feeling a sense of connection to the world outside. The flight attendants moved gracefully through the aisles, their voices calm and welcoming. She noticed the attention to detail, the neatly folded napkins, the soft lighting, the quiet efficiency of the crew. She felt a quiet admiration for the people who made the journey smooth for everyone. She had always believed that kindness, even in small gestures, made the world better, and here it was, embodied in the crew's polite smiles and gentle words. As the plane taxied to the runway, she felt a gentle vibration beneath her feet, a signal that the journey was about to begin. She took a deep breath, her heart beating a little faster with excitement. The engines roared to life, and slowly the plane lifted into the sky. She watched the city shrink below her, the familiar streets and rooftops becoming tiny shapes. A sense of freedom washed over her. From up here, the world seemed vast and full of possibilities. She felt a rare kind of peace, a moment where everything seemed aligned. During the flight, she kept herself occupied with the small notebook and the camera. She snapped pictures of clouds that looked like mountains, rivers that glittered in the sunlight, and tiny towns that seemed like toys from above. She observed her fellow passengers with curiosity but without judgment. There was a quiet dignity in everyone's presence, a reminder that every life carried its own story, unseen yet significant. A gentle hum of conversation floated through the cabin. She listened occasionally, catching fragments of laughter, stories being shared, and quiet moments of reflection. She felt grateful to be part of this shared human experience, even if only for a few hours. Her heart swelled with a simple joy, the kind that didn't need extravagance or recognition. It was enough to be alive, to witness life as it unfolded around her. Hours passed and the plane began its descent. She felt a flutter of anticipation as the city below came into view. Familiar streets, parks, and rivers grew clearer, and she felt a warm excitement for the friend waiting to greet her. She thought about the stories she would share, the laughter they would enjoy, and the comfort of old companionship. Her journey was not just about moving from one place to another. It was about connection, love, and the simple beauty of being present. The landing was smooth, and she felt the gentle bump as the plane touched the runway. Passengers began to gather their belongings, and she followed the flow with a calm patience. She exited the plane, stretching her legs and breathing in the fresh air of the new city. Her heart was light, her spirit eager for the adventures and moments ahead. Every step she took felt deliberate, a reminder that life's beauty was often found in simple, ordinary moments. As she walked through the airport, collecting her bag and preparing to meet her friend, she felt a quiet sense of contentment. Life had given her ordinary days small joys and moments of wonder. She was grateful for each one. The world was vast, full of stories, and today was hers to experience fully, with open eyes and an open heart. She walked along the aisle of the plane, her small bag swinging gently in her hand. The hum of the engines was a comforting presence, a steady rhythm that seemed to sync with her heartbeat. She was looking forward to her visit, thinking about the warmth of her friend's smile and the simple meals they would share. The thought made her chest feel light, a soft excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. As she approached her seat, she noticed the first-class section. The seats were larger, with soft leather that gleamed under the cabin lights. A few passengers were already seated, quietly enjoying the comfort that came with extra space and luxury. She paused for a moment, not because she wanted to sit there, but because she couldn't help noticing the difference. She had always preferred simplicity, and the elegance of first class felt foreign, almost intimidating. A flight attendant approached her with a polite smile. "Excuse me, ma'am, this is first class. Your seat is in the economy section." She blinked, slightly startled. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said quickly, shaking her head. "I didn't mean to wander in. Thank you." She stepped back gracefully, feeling a little awkward. Her cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but from a deep-rooted habit of respecting boundaries and rules. Luxury had never been her world, and she had no desire to break into it. The flight attendant nodded kindly, her demeanor warm but firm. "No problem. Please enjoy your flight," she said, moving down the aisle to attend to another passenger. She smiled politely, holding her bag closer and heading to her assigned seat in economy. She had never cared for status or special treatment. For her, happiness wasn't measured in spacious seats or fancy amenities. It was in the simple joys, watching the clouds drift past, reading a few pages of a good book, or jotting down thoughts in her notebook. She had always believed that being content with what she had brought its own kind of peace. As she settled into her seat, the person next to her gave a friendly nod. She returned it with a quiet smile, feeling the comfort of human connection even in a crowded cabin. The plane began to taxi, and she pressed her hand lightly against the window, watching the runway blur as they picked up speed. The engines roared and the plane lifted gracefully into the sky. Her heart fluttered with anticipation, not because of the luxury around her, but because of the journey itself, the simple act of moving through the world, of seeing new places, of embracing the unknown. The flight attendants moved down the aisles, offering drinks and snacks. She declined politely, sipping the small bottle of water she had brought. She didn't need much. She was content with her own preparations, knowing that happiness wasn't in indulgence but in awareness of the present moment. Around her, passengers chatted, read, or quietly stared at the sky through their windows. She watched them, curious and reflective. Everyone had a story, and she felt grateful to witness these small moments, fleeting yet meaningful. As the flight progressed, a subtle tension began to emerge nearby. A woman a few rows ahead had mistakenly entered first class and was being politely guided back to her own section. She overheard snippets of conversation, polite refusals mixed with gentle reminders. The woman looked uncomfortable, adjusting her bag and glancing around as if embarrassed by her own mistake. She could relate in a small way. She knew that feeling of not quite fitting in, of being reminded that you belonged elsewhere. Yet she felt no discomfort for herself. She had always carried a quiet sense of belonging within her, not dependent on status or recognition. Hours passed, and she found herself lost in her thoughts. She thought about the small bakery where she worked, the rhythm of kneading dough and the smell of fresh bread that greeted her each morning. She thought about her friend, waiting with open arms and a kind heart. She thought about her own life, modest but full of quiet richness, the laughter of neighbors, the trust of coworkers, the simple satisfaction of a day well lived. In this way, the flight became more than a journey from one city to another. It became a reflection of life itself, a meditation on what mattered most. Suddenly, a gentle commotion stirred near the front. Another passenger, a man in a suit, was being informed that his seat upgrade was not available. The conversation was polite, but the disappointment was clear in his voice. She noticed how carefully the flight attendants handled each situation, balancing professionalism with empathy. She admired the patience and the calmness they maintained in the face of subtle frustrations. There was something profoundly human in these small interactions, the way people handled boundaries, expectations, and emotions without causing harm to others. As the plane reached cruising altitude, she glanced around the cabin. Families were settling in, some reading to children, some quietly watching movies on small screens. A young couple held hands, sharing a soft laugh over something on their phones. An elderly man dozed lightly, a blanket draped over his shoulders. She smiled, feeling a sense of shared humanity, a quiet acknowledgement of the lives that intertwined briefly within this flying space. The woman in the next row caught her attention. She had clearly been hoping for a first-class upgrade, her eyes flicking toward the luxurious section every few minutes. She looked frustrated yet polite, her hands fidgeting with the seatbelt. Our protagonist felt a wave of empathy, remembering that feeling of being denied something you didn't expect to have but secretly wished for. Yet she remained grounded, reflecting on her own values. For her, being denied a luxurious seat wasn't a setback. It was a reaffirmation of the life she had chosen, a life of humility and appreciation for the ordinary. During the flight, she took out her notebook and began to write. She captured small details: the laughter of children, the quiet dignity of the crew, the subtle tensions of passengers who struggled with unfulfilled expectations. Each observation was a reminder of the spectrum of human experience, the blend of contentment, longing, patience, and small disappointments that made life rich and real. Writing made her feel anchored, a quiet participant in the symphony of ordinary moments. Lunch was served, though she had brought her own snack. She nibbled quietly, watching the cabin through the window. The clouds stretched endlessly, white and fluffy like waves frozen in time. The sun glinted on their edges, painting golden highlights that made her heart swell. She felt a profound gratitude for the simple chance to witness beauty, to exist in the world and to be aware of it fully. Luxury or first-class seating could not heighten this feeling. It was already complete within the quiet appreciation of life. As the flight neared its midpoint, a flight attendant came down the aisle, pausing briefly to chat with the woman who had been hoping for an upgrade. The conversation was gentle, professional, and human. It struck her as remarkable, the way small acts of kindness and clarity could ease tension and restore calm without drawing attention. She thought about how much of life was like this, unnoticed gestures that shaped experiences and relationships. Hours passed in a rhythm of reflection, observation, and quiet contentment. She felt a deepening sense of patience and resilience, recognizing that life often placed you in situations that tested humility, gratitude, and understanding. Being denied something you did not expect, or even something you secretly hoped for, wasn't an insult or loss. It was an opportunity to honor one's values, to remain kind, composed, and true to oneself. As the plane began its descent, the woman felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. She was excited to reach her destination, to reunite with her friend, to step out into a new city and embrace its rhythm. Yet she also felt a gentle pride in how the flight had unfolded. She had navigated her own emotions, observed the lives of others with empathy, and remained grounded in her sense of self. The small moments of tension and denial had become lessons, reminders that contentment and dignity came from within, not from luxury or status. The landing was smooth, and she felt the familiar bump as the wheels touched the runway. Passengers stirred, collecting their belongings and preparing to disembark. She gathered her bag, adjusted her scarf, and stood with calm composure. Around her, people moved with anticipation, relief, or excitement. She watched quietly, noting the mix of emotions, each one valid, each one human. Walking down the aisle, she felt a quiet sense of achievement. The flight had been more than a simple journey. It had been a reflection on values, patience, and human nature. She had witnessed kindness, frustration, and subtle moments of empathy. She had remained true to herself, humble and observant, finding richness in the ordinary moments that others might overlook. As she stepped off the plane and into the arrival hall, she breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of the new city around her. Her heart was light, her mind reflective, and her spirit ready for the experiences that awaited her. The journey had been a small adventure, a gentle test of character, and she had passed it without complaint or pretense. She smiled softly, knowing that life's most meaningful moments often came quietly, in ordinary places and without recognition. The woman had settled back into her seat after stretching her legs on the short walk to the restroom. She felt the gentle hum of the plane beneath her, and a sense of calm that came with movement. She took out her notebook, flipping it open to a fresh page, and began jotting down thoughts about the morning, the flight, and the people she had seen. Each word was a small anchor, a way to hold herself in the moment while the world flew past outside the window. She noticed a man at the front of the plane who seemed out of place, his demeanor calm but alert. He was watching quietly, blending into the first-class section with ease. Something about him made her pause for a moment, though she couldn't quite place why. Perhaps it was the way he observed the interactions, his gaze filled with curiosity rather than judgment. She returned to her writing, trying not to let her imagination wander, but a tiny part of her mind kept glancing at him. Time passed, and the usual rhythms of the flight continued. Passengers were engaged in quiet conversations. Children slept with blankets pulled close, and the flight attendants moved with their usual grace. The woman in the row ahead still stole occasional glances at first class, a soft sigh escaping her lips as she realized her hope for an upgrade had not come to fruition. Our protagonist watched, feeling empathy rather than irritation. She understood the subtle disappointment, having felt it herself many times in life. There was no shame in longing for something, only in how one responded to it. The man at the front shifted slightly as if he were acknowledging her presence. His eyes met hers for a brief moment, and she felt a strange sense of recognition, though she did not know why. He smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly, before returning his attention to the cabin. She felt a flutter in her chest, an unfamiliar curiosity, but quickly brushed it aside. She had learned to focus on the immediate, the tangible and the honest moments around her, rather than chasing mysteries she could not yet understand. A few rows behind, a young family was having a gentle argument over which movie to watch. The children were laughing, tugging at each other, while the parents tried to maintain calm. She observed them quietly, noting the ordinary yet profound nature of these small family moments. Life was full of these little interactions, each one shaping who people were and how they felt about the world. She wrote a line in her notebook about the beauty of human connection, small but significant, and closed it, feeling a quiet satisfaction. As the hours passed, the woman felt the subtle changes in the plane's movement. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and reassuring, announcing minor turbulence ahead. She gripped the armrest lightly but felt no fear, only a gentle reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human life. Around her, passengers adjusted, some a little tense, others resigned to the gentle shake. She found comfort in the shared humanity of it all, in knowing that everyone experienced the same moment differently yet together. The man at the front began to move through the first-class section, walking slowly toward the middle of the cabin. He carried himself with quiet confidence, his attention focused yet not intrusive. There was something deliberate in his movements, a sense that he was observing without judgment. She felt her curiosity grow, though she reminded herself not to read too much into it. Sometimes the world was full of quiet figures whose purpose was unknown, and that mystery added depth to life rather than taking anything away. A gentle announcement from a flight attendant interrupted her thoughts. The man in front had apparently asked for a small change, handled discreetly with the utmost care for the passenger in question. She noticed the attentiveness, the way the crew responded without haste or pressure. There was a subtle grace in how people moved, a reminder that attention to detail and respect could make the world feel gentler. She wrote a few lines in her notebook about observation, kindness, and the way human interactions could reveal character without words. Suddenly, a subtle shift occurred. The man approached the aisle near her row, pausing briefly as if considering something. Their eyes met again, and this time he nodded slightly. She returned the gesture, feeling a strange but gentle warmth. She could not explain the familiarity, but it was accompanied by an instinctual sense of reassurance, like meeting a friend she had not yet known. She felt her chest tighten slightly, a mixture of curiosity and comfort, though she remained composed and focused on her own space. The turbulence eased and she relaxed, her thoughts drifting between the moment and the subtle interactions she had witnessed. She realized that life was a series of these small gestures, unnoticed by many yet meaningful to those who saw them. She smiled softly, appreciating the ordinary beauty around her. The steady hum of the plane, the soft lighting of the cabin, the quiet attention of the crew, and the little gestures of passengers adjusting to their shared journey. The man stopped in the aisle again, glancing toward her seat. He spoke softly to the flight attendant, who nodded and moved with a calm understanding. She could not hear the exact words, but the tone conveyed respect, consideration, and a sense of purpose. Something in her gut told her that this man was different from anyone she had met before, not because of wealth or status, but because of the quiet way he influenced the atmosphere around him, without demanding attention or recognition. She returned to her notebook, trying to capture the subtlety of the moments. She wrote about the ordinary lives around her, the blend of excitement, anticipation, and gentle disappointment, and how these small experiences reflected the broader human story. She noted how some people sought luxury while others remained content with simplicity, and how the intersection of these perspectives created a rich, nuanced world. Writing gave her a sense of order, a way to process the quiet complexities of life she witnessed. Minutes later, the man finally approached her row, his expression calm but kind. He leaned slightly, speaking softly to her. She looked up, startled but composed, unsure why he was addressing her directly. His words were simple, polite, and unexpected. He complimented her on her composure and the way she carried herself, noticing her quiet dignity amidst the ordinary hum of the cabin. She felt a blush rise to her cheeks, not from flattery, but from the unexpected recognition of her values. She thanked him politely, feeling a mix of curiosity and caution. Something about the encounter stirred a subtle awareness within her, a sense that the world contained layers she had yet to see. She returned to her writing, capturing the strange, delicate interplay of observation, humility, and quiet acknowledgement. The notebook became her anchor, a place to hold fleeting moments and make sense of subtle connections. The man moved away, returning to the front of the plane, and she felt a gentle release of tension. Yet a soft anticipation lingered, like a whisper that something beyond the ordinary was quietly unfolding. She realized that life often carried surprises that tested patience, observation, and understanding. The ordinary moments of the flight had shifted subtly, carrying hints of revelation, not yet clear but undeniable. As the hours continued, she remained attentive, her mind alert but not anxious. She noticed the small kindnesses around her, the way the crew smiled, the careful attention to passengers, the unspoken respect among strangers sharing the same confined space. It struck her that character revealed itself most clearly in moments of ordinary interaction, in the way people responded to situations without expectation or self-interest. She glanced out the window as the sun began to descend, painting the clouds in soft gold and pink hues. The scene reminded her of the beauty in transition, the way moments passed and transformed into something new. She felt a quiet hope, a subtle excitement, not for luxury or recognition, but for the unfolding possibilities in life. The layers yet to be discovered and the gentle surprises that awaited those who observed with care and attention. Her notebook filled with observations, reflections, and subtle musings about human behavior, dignity, and connection. She wrote about the ordinary interactions that carried profound meaning, the quiet acknowledgement of effort and patience, and the small gestures that revealed deeper truths. Each line was a meditation, a way to honor the unfolding moments of the flight, the human stories intersecting with her own, and the subtle hints of something extraordinary yet to be understood. As the plane began its descent, she felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The city below came into view, the lights sparkling faintly as evening approached. She realized that the journey had been more than physical. It had been a quiet exploration of character, human interaction, and subtle revelation. The man at the front, the small gestures, the attentive crew, all had contributed to a sense that life carried mysteries beyond immediate understanding, and that humility and awareness allowed one to witness them fully. The wheels touched down smoothly, and she felt the gentle bump that signaled the end of the flight. Passengers stirred, collected their belongings, and prepared to leave. She gathered her bag, adjusted her scarf, and rose with a calm sense of anticipation. Her heart was light, her mind reflective, and her spirit ready for the next part of the unfolding story. She knew that the world contained quiet surprises, and today had shown her that observing with attention and integrity could reveal truths she had not yet imagined. As she walked down the aisle, she felt the subtle presence of the man at the front once more, a faint sense of recognition that lingered in the air. She did not yet know why, but she felt a gentle curiosity, an anticipation that something meaningful was quietly approaching. The ordinary moments of the flight had shifted subtly, hinting at revelations to come, and she felt a soft excitement for the journey that awaited beyond the airport doors. She had barely settled back into her seat, after the minor shuffle of passengers, preparing for landing when a soft voice beside her said, "Would you like to join me in first class for the rest of the flight?" She looked up, startled, meeting the kind eyes of the man who had been quietly observing the cabin for hours. Her first reaction was surprise. Her second was hesitation. She shook her head lightly, smiling politely. "No, thank you. I wouldn't want to take someone else's seat. I'm quite comfortable here." The man chuckled softly, a warmth in his voice that made her feel unexpectedly at ease. "I insist," he said gently. There was no pressure, only a quiet insistence that carried sincerity. Her curiosity battled her modesty. She had never been one to accept unearned privileges, and yet there was something in his demeanor that felt safe, respectful, and genuine. She hesitated, looking at the rows of first-class seats. They were luxurious, spacious, and inviting. She shook her head again, a little smile tugging at her lips. "I really can't, it wouldn't feel right." He paused as if studying her face, then nodded slowly. "I understand," he said softly, "but I hope you can trust me. Just for a little while, please." The gentle insistence was enough to spark her curiosity. Something about his tone suggested honesty, and for reasons she could not yet explain, she felt a subtle nudge of trust. With a quiet breath, she relented, standing and following him to the first-class cabin. The moment she stepped into the luxurious section, she felt a mix of awe and discomfort. Everything looked so elegant, yet she tried to keep her composure, reminding herself that comfort and status were different. She noticed the attentive crew moving gracefully, the neatly arranged seats and the subtle lighting that made the space feel calm and inviting. She seated herself, feeling the soft leather cushion beneath her and a strange awareness that this was not her usual world. The man sat across from her, his expression warm and patient. "I hope you don't feel uncomfortable," he said. She shook her head. "A little, yes, but it's more curiosity than unease. It's all very different from what I'm used to." He nodded thoughtfully, then said nothing. giving her space to settle into this new environment without overwhelming her. As the plane continued to cruise, a quiet conversation began between them. She asked simple questions about the flight, the crew, and the city below. He answered honestly, his tone gentle and unassuming, not at all condescending. She listened, intrigued by his knowledge and insight, but she could not yet place why this conversation felt so familiar, so comfortable. There was a warmth in his voice, a careful attention to her feelings, and a subtle humor that made her laugh softly a few times. Minutes later, he leaned forward slightly, his expression more earnest. "There's something I should tell you," he said. She tilted her head, curiosity tinged with a little apprehension. "I haven't been completely honest about my life," he continued. "You've been flying on my plane all along. I own this airline. I wanted to see you as you are, without the influence of wealth or status." Her eyes widened, and for a moment words failed her. She stared at him. Disbelief mingled with a rush of emotions she couldn't quite name. She tried to speak, but the words came out softly, almost in a whisper. You own this?" Her hands trembled slightly, resting on her notebook. "All this time?" "I didn't even know." He nodded, a small, reassuring smile playing at his lips. "I wanted to know who you were without knowing who I was. I needed to see your true self, your values, your humility. I wanted to see the kindness you carry and the way you treat people, even when luxury is offered and status is obvious." She felt a flush of warmth, her heart beating quickly. Part of her felt relief, another part awe. The thought that he had been observing her, not for manipulation but to understand her character, struck a chord deep within. She had never been one for pretension or material allure. She valued honesty, respect, and simplicity above all else. And now here he was, revealing a truth that was almost too extraordinary to grasp. Her voice was soft, trembling slightly. "I didn't even think about first class as something I deserved. I'm happy where I am with what I have. I've never cared for luxury, I just live simply." She paused, unsure how to continue, the words seeming inadequate to convey her thoughts fully. "I didn't know life could be like this. I didn't know wealth could be hidden so quietly." He reached out, his hand resting gently near hers on the armrest, careful not to overwhelm. "That's exactly why I wanted to meet you, to see the person who values honesty and simplicity above everything else. You didn't change your behavior when you could have. You remained true to yourself. That is what drew me to you. That is why I respect you so deeply." His words, gentle yet firm, resonated with her, echoing in the quiet space of her heart. Tears welled up in her eyes, not of sadness but of gratitude and awe. She had never imagined such a revelation, never expected to be recognized for the quiet dignity she carried in her daily life. She realized that humility and kindness were not just virtues in abstract. They were visible, impactful, and capable of touching the hearts of those who observed sincerely. Her emotions were a mixture of disbelief, joy, and a soft relief that her values had been noticed. He continued, speaking of life and trust, of observing people without influencing them, and of the beauty and honesty. He told her that wealth and status were never tests in themselves, but tools to understand integrity and character. She listened intently, absorbing each word, feeling a connection that transcended circumstance. There was a rare clarity in the conversation, a gentle understanding that neither wealth nor simplicity alone defined life, but the choices one made and the respect shown to others did. She spoke softly, her words careful and reflective. "I've never wanted to be treated differently for wealth or status. I just want to be understood, to be respected for who I am. I never imagined that someone could see that in me so clearly, even from a distance." She paused, tears slipping down her cheeks, quickly brushed away with a handkerchief. "It's overwhelming, but it feels right." He smiled, eyes gentle. "That is exactly what I hoped you would feel. You didn't seek attention, you didn't manipulate situations, and yet your true self emerged. That is why you are special, why I admire you, and why I wanted to share this with you now." The plane continued its journey, clouds drifting softly outside the window. She felt a profound sense of connection, not just to him but to the experience itself. The ordinary flight had transformed into a space of revelation, honesty, and understanding. She realized that life's most meaningful moments often arrived quietly, without fanfare, yet left a lasting impact. Humility, integrity, and kindness had been recognized, and in that acknowledgement she found a deep sense of peace. She smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. "I never thought life could surprise me like this," she said softly. "And yet it has. I feel grateful and more myself than ever." Her voice carried a mix of laughter and tears, a testament to the profound relief and joy she felt. He nodded, his own expression reflecting warmth and sincerity. "You have nothing to prove, no facade to maintain. You are seen for who you are, and that is a rare and beautiful thing. Life can offer many surprises, but integrity and humility will always be recognized in some form, sometimes in ways we least expect." His words wrapped around her like a gentle embrace, giving comfort and affirmation. They sat together in a quiet silence for a few moments, watching the sky change as the sun began to dip lower, casting golden streaks across the clouds. She felt a deep sense of belonging, not because of luxury or status, but because of recognition, understanding, and connection. The revelation of his identity, though extraordinary, did not overshadow her own values. It highlighted them, giving them weight and acknowledgement. As the descent began, she realized that the world was both ordinary and extraordinary, layered with hidden stories and quiet truths waiting to be discovered. The flight had become more than a journey. It had become a reflection on character, trust, and the beauty of simple integrity. She felt a sense of gratitude, not for wealth, not for luxury, but for being truly seen, respected, and understood. Her hands rested lightly on her notebook, where she had written reflections and observations throughout the flight. She opened it, noting the words she had jotted down earlier, realizing that even the smallest moments had contributed to the unfolding revelation. The ordinary had led to the extraordinary, and she embraced the blend of humility and surprise that now filled her heart. Landing approached, and she felt anticipation for the city below, the friend waiting to greet her, and the life that continued beyond the cabin. Yet she also felt a new sense of awareness, a quiet understanding that the ordinary moments, the small gestures, and the integrity one carries are the threads that weave meaningful connections and reveal truths that money or status cannot create. As the plane touched down smoothly, she took a deep breath, feeling the gentle vibration beneath her feet and the rush of gratitude in her chest. She turned slightly to him, offering a soft smile that conveyed everything words could not capture: awe, trust, and a quiet recognition of the extraordinary trust and respect between them. Stepping off the plane, she felt the world shift subtly. The ordinary city lights and bustling travelers somehow enhanced by the profound realization she carried within. The revelation of his identity, his observations, and his gentle recognition had changed nothing about her values, but everything about her awareness of life's quiet magic. She walked toward the arrival hall, each step imbued with a mixture of humility, curiosity, and the gentle thrill of a story unfolding, one that began with ordinary moments and had led to an extraordinary, heartwarming revelation. She stepped into the arrival hall, the lights reflecting softly off the polished floors, and felt the world move with familiar rhythm. Travelers hustled past with rolling suitcases, some laughing into phones, others quietly observing the crowd. For a moment she simply stood, taking it all in. The ordinary sounds, the ordinary sights, yet she felt an extraordinary calm. The revelation on the plane had settled into her chest, filling it with a warm glow she hadn't expected. The man walked beside her, not drawing attention, his presence steady and reassuring. She glanced at him, still processing the surprise of learning who he really was. Her mind replayed the conversations, the gentle insistence, the honesty in his eyes. She realized that life often offered lessons in the most unexpected ways, and gratitude for small, genuine human moments had become a new compass in her heart. As they walked toward the exit, he spoke softly, careful not to overwhelm. "I hope this hasn't changed how you see the world or yourself. You've been true to yourself, and that's what matters." She looked at him, feeling the sincerity in his words. "It hasn't," she replied. "It has shown me that people can be honest, kind, and understanding in ways I didn't fully realize existed. And it has reminded me that I don't need luxury to feel valued. I am valued for who I am." The gentle confidence in her voice made him smile. He had known her integrity before she did, and now, seeing her understanding it herself, he felt a profound sense of admiration and relief. They exited the airport into the soft evening air. The city welcomed them with its quiet hum, the lights flickering along streets filled with cars, shops, and life moving forward. She breathed in the freshness of the air, feeling alive and grounded at the same time. Her friend was waiting outside, a bright smile lighting her face as she waved. The woman waved back, her own smile wide and genuine. For a moment she felt that familiar excitement of human connection. The joy of reunion mingled with the lingering wonder of the plane journey. It was ordinary yet extraordinary, a reminder of how life's simplest moments could carry the heaviest emotional weight. They walked together through the streets, talking quietly, sharing stories, and laughing over small familiar memories. She noticed the little details, the glow of streetlights, the way people greeted each other, the smells drifting from nearby cafes, and felt a deep appreciation for the ordinary beauty surrounding her. Every step reinforced the understanding that happiness was in noticing and embracing these simple moments. At a small cafe, they settled into a quiet corner, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked pastries filling the space. She ordered a cup of tea, her favorite, and allowed herself to relax completely for the first time in hours. The man across from her ordered a simple coffee, his presence unobtrusive yet somehow comforting. They spoke of nothing extraordinary at first, just observations of life, quiet reflections, and gentle humor that made her laugh softly. It was a calm reprieve, a pause to simply be in each other's company without expectation. The conversation shifted naturally toward the flight and the revelation of his identity. She shared how she had felt, the mixture of surprise, disbelief, and warmth. He listened patiently, nodding, offering gentle insights without overshadowing her feelings. There was no pretense, no pressure, only a quiet exchange of understanding and acknowledgement. She realized that honesty and openness, when coupled with respect, could create bonds far deeper than superficial gestures ever could. She spoke of her life, her humble routines, her love for simple pleasures, and the joy she found in observing and interacting with people. He listened, fascinated not by the modesty of her lifestyle but by the integrity, kindness, and thoughtfulness that defined it. It was in these stories, these quiet reflections, that he saw the essence of her character, and he felt both admiration and love deepen. Hours passed as they sat together, the world outside moving in its usual rhythm while inside, time seemed to slow, bending around their shared presence. She realized that this was more than a conversation. It was a gentle weaving of understanding, a quiet acknowledgement of values, and a rare human connection built on honesty, humility, and trust. She felt a profound peace, the kind that comes from being fully seen without expectation or pretense. Later, as they walked back through the city streets, she marveled at the ordinary details, the glow of shop windows, the laughter of children in a park, the soft rhythm of footsteps echoing along the pavement. Each moment felt heightened, more vivid, as if life had opened its layers to her in ways she had never noticed. She felt a deep gratitude, not for wealth or status, but for clarity, trust, and the gentle unfolding of events that led her to this point. They found a quiet park bench overlooking a small fountain. She sat, the cool breeze brushing her hair, and he remained standing nearby, watching her with gentle patience. She reflected on the journey, the modest preparation for the trip, the flight with its small tensions, the unexpected recognition of her values, and the calm resolution afterward. Life had a way of weaving ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences, and she felt privileged to have witnessed it so directly. "Do you ever think about how life surprises us?" she asked softly, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. He nodded, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "All the time," he replied. "Life has a quiet way of testing patience, humility, and integrity, and then it rewards us in ways we cannot predict. It reminds us that values matter more than circumstances." She thought about her simple routines, her quiet joys, and the way she had navigated the flight without concern for status. It was not lost on her that these very values had been recognized and cherished. A sense of pride mixed with humility settled in her chest. She realized that integrity was invisible to some, but when observed with care, it became luminous, undeniable, and deeply meaningful. He spoke again, softly, thoughtfully. "You've shown that happiness doesn't come from wealth or recognition, but from understanding oneself and acting with honesty and kindness. That's a rare gift, and it touches everyone around you." Her heart warmed at the acknowledgement. Words often failed to convey the depth of feeling she experienced, but she knew in this moment that she was truly seen. They sat in a comfortable silence for a while, listening to the gentle murmur of the park, the trickling fountain, and the occasional laughter of distant children. The simplicity of the moment contrasted with the extraordinary revelation she had just experienced. She felt the beauty of life in its full complexity, the ordinary and extraordinary intertwined seamlessly, teaching her gratitude, patience, and trust. As darkness fell, they began walking back toward her friend's home. Streetlights illuminated the path, casting gentle shadows and creating a quiet intimacy in the city's rhythm. She reflected on the entire day. The anticipation of the journey, the hum of the plane, the brief discomfort, the revelation, and the calm acceptance afterward. Life had unfolded as a series of lessons, gentle yet profound, reminding her that value was never in material wealth but in character, connection, and integrity. Arriving at her friend's home, she hugged tightly, sharing laughter and stories of the journey. The man remained in the background, observing respectfully, his presence comforting yet unobtrusive. She realized that the extraordinary events of the day had changed nothing about her values or her joy in simple moments. If anything, they had affirmed her belief that kindness, humility, and honesty were the true treasures of life. Later, in a quiet room, she reflected on the plane, the revelation, and the connection she had felt with the man who had observed her so carefully. She understood that love, respect, and recognition were built on trust and observation, not wealth or grand gestures. It was a quiet, human truth that filled her with peace, joy, and anticipation for the future. As she prepared for bed, she took out her notebook once more, capturing the reflections of the day. She wrote about the ordinary moments, the gentle surprises, the human interactions, and the quiet acknowledgement of her values. The words flowed effortlessly, a testament to the calm clarity and gratitude she felt. She realized that life's most meaningful lessons often arrived in simple forms, hidden within ordinary experiences, yet leaving extraordinary impressions. Before sleep, she thought of the future, the trips, the conversations, and the shared experiences yet to come. She knew that material wealth could never define her happiness or identity. Instead, she found joy in being understood, in human connection, and in living authentically. The man beside her, whose identity had been revealed, was a witness to her values, but she knew that her true worth lay not in his recognition alone, but in her steadfast adherence to honesty, humility, and kindness. The city outside continued its rhythm, unnoticed by most, yet profoundly affecting the lives of those within it. She felt a deep connection to this ordinary yet extraordinary world, grateful for every moment, every observation, every quiet lesson. Life had unfolded gently, teaching her that true wealth was found in understanding oneself, honoring integrity, and embracing the subtle magic of ordinary moments. And with that, she drifted into a peaceful sleep, her heart full, her spirit light, and her soul quietly enriched by a day she would never forget.